There are quite a lot of good videos online about zeroing and leveling the build plate, and as well as calibrating the resolution. So I'm not going to go over that in this print. What we are going to do is see what happened with the settings to see whether or not the settings that I started with worked out. So my build plate is already zeroed and leveled. I'm going to raise it a bit so that I can fill the resin vat with resin. And this is Maker Juice G+. I do have a little bit of extra pigment added, about 0.5%, I think. So this may be blacker than you might be used to. This thing's only 15 milliliters. So I think that the remaining resin that I have here should be enough. Could be close, hard to say. I think it'll be okay though. So filled the vat. And then I will go down to Z Home. Oh yeah, there should be plenty of resin. It goes over the top, so that's way more than 50. I've got a opaque object over the lid of my projector, and so I'm going to power on. And so I've got the projector on. I'm going to take a look below. You can't see me doing this. I'm looking for bubbles, and I did capture a few bubbles underneath there, so I'll cycle this. Generally I go up by 4 millimeters until it comes down, and then I'll go to Z Home again, and that'll push out some of the bubbles. I might do that 2 or 3 times depending. Okay, so projector's on now. I'm going to display the calibration grid. Looking at the calibration grid now that's illuminated, from below, I can see the red grid, and this lets me again look out for any large bubbles that might be present. And looks pretty good. Looks like I don't have any large bubbles. Not that there won't be some. Especially with the big lifts. There's a trade-off. The big lift is going to squeeze air back down in here, so we'll have to see how it goes. So I've got the calibration grid going. I've got my settings here. Same as the one from the software video. And I think I'm ready to start. So, hit run. And I am projecting. So I have the top illuminated quite a bit. You probably can't see the illumination sequence. So let me for a moment turn off my backlight here, and we can run a cycle, and I'll show you what that looks like. I have another amber light here that I'm also going to conceal for the moment. And now you can see the illumination of the projector down here. You can see the light coming in. And 3DBenchy is not a gigantic object. Oh, I am over the nut. Anyway, that'll be okay for now. That's not a big deal. So this first layer here is going down for 90 seconds. There we go. So you see light went off. We're doing a lift sequence here. Now at this level for layer 1, we set the lift height to 8 millimeters. It's very unlikely I will need 8 millimeters. There we go, we dropped. So that looks like 4. This is the setting I had for a 3D printed handle. The bottom of that 3D printed handle is much bigger surface area. You can see that my handle, one of the broken ones, is here. This is way bigger than the 3DBenchy. So I had the lift set bigger for that larger object, and it's probably just too conservative for this. It's likely that after printing once and observing it, I could probably halve the print time. But the most important thing when starting out here is I do want to succeed, and I don't want to go overboard and break anything. I don't want to wear my vats out prematurely. I don't want the print to fail. So it's worth it to go a bit conservative the first time you're printing an object. And then if you need to come back again and print a revised version of it, you'll know, and adjust the lift and the speeds appropriately to get a bit faster. So we are now at layer 3. This is 25-second exposure, and we're still doing 8 millimeter lifts. We're going up a little faster now at 20 millimeters per minute. I dropped like, right, barely, maybe 2-3 millimeters. So I'm really lifting way, way more than I need to. So I'll turn the light back on now so you can see the print process a little more clearly. I'm looking at the underneath, and it looks good. One of the risks with taking really big lifts is that I might push big air bubbles back in. It's not a huge risk. It's relatively unlikely. It rarely happens. And it looks like I don't have any problems with it. Looking in from underneath, I have not pushed any air bubbles into the surface of the object. So this should be pretty good going forward. I'll put the video into time-lapse mode, and let's warp through to the end. So it looks like we got close, but didn't quite make it. As I mentioned before, I was a little bit concerned about the roof, and yes, as soon as the roof came in here, unfortunately my attachment layer wasn't big enough, possibly because I didn't take into account the overlap with the nut. But in any case, the attachment layer wasn't big enough, and so right when the roof started to come in, the model detached from the base. But that should still give us sufficient some sufficient amount of the model for me to measure against. So I've stopped the print here. And then I'll power off the projector. And I'll move the kind of the linear stage out of the way. I should be able to just pluck the part off, and we can take a look at what it looks like.